Greetings, fellow people of culture. Today, we're exploring. We're going outside our comfort zones. Well, not really. I mean, we're still going to do some car stuff today, but on this channel, as you know, we're all about Need for Speed, the Fast and the Furious, Nissan Skylines, BMW M3 GTRs. You can see that with my home screen here. Today, we're going to dive in and explore the cultural phenomena of Top Gear, specifically Top Gear UK. And I thought I'd start with one of the most historical moments, the introduction of one of the presenters of the original trio, James May. So, let's open up Google here. Oh my God. Okay. Now, I can imagine that is the limit of the quality we can expect in terms of that. The annoying thing is, before we get started on this, good old Jeremy Clarkson here on the screen, is that because I am in the US, even though I grew up in the UK for at least 3.5 years, so I'm very familiar with this show, I think because of that. I know that this is a international phenomena, worldwide planetary influence, all that shit, but I was in the UK from like 2010 to 2012, so I grew up with, you know, a lot of their classic, you know, just some of the best episodes ever, you know, of series 2 through 5, I think it is, which are unavailable for streaming in the US for some reason, which bothers me because I want to react to the entire series up until, I think it's 22, season 22, something like that. I have them all on iTunes, like I own them. I don't have to stream them, I just own them. I can download them to my phone, turn off my Wi-Fi, and then keep playing them. Maybe that still counts as streaming, I don't know. I'm just an old man, I don't really fucking care that much. But if I go to TV shows on here on my phone, on the TV app, I've got season 6 all the way through season 22. And I want to react to individual episodes, not entire seasons, not best moments. So if you guys have got any advice as to how me, an American, can get access to seasons 2 through 5, that'd be great. I don't care if I have to buy DVDs and import them over to the US from the UK. That's totally fine. I just need to know where I can buy them. I don't really care how much it costs because, hey, it's a business expense. And also, it would be so cool to see the full, the full episodes, whether it's James May's first appearance or the entire saga of trying to destroy a Toyota Hilux, stuff like that. It's a little tricky to find for someone not at that side of the pond. But anyways, today we're looking at James May's first appearance. Let's go.
This being a new series of Top Gear, we thought we'd try out a new presenter. Okay, he's called James May, and on the evidence of what we're about to see, he is a blithering idiot.
Which, I don't know of many shows that would introduce and start the relationship between presenters in that sort of way. Be like, so we've got a new host on the show. We're going to be working together in proximity for a good amount of time. So here he is. He's a moron. I love the relationship these guys have. And James May is a special case for me, even though Jeremy Clarkson is kind of my favorite, and I know a lot of people can relate. But the kind of the end game James May has had, where he's kind of gone into exploring different hobbies, doing different types of shows, making his alcoholic beverage and things like that, which I want to show you guys that later. Because he had to change the name for it because you couldn't bring it into the US legally because it's called like mustard something, and he wasn't allowed to sell it in America because people were concerned Americans would think it was mustard or something, even though it resembles mustard in only one way, and that is the name. And I thought that was pretty fucking hilarious. I'll find that later. But I like he did stuff with model trains, he's putting stuff together, just enjoying all his stuff, and he's like doing stuff with hydrogen-powered vehicles. He did a cooking show once, even though he has no qualifications. Well, no, actually, he did beat Gordon Ramsay in a cooking competition once. So, yeah. I'm rambling, like if I was a Top Gear presenter, my end game would be very similar. My retirement, however you want. He's just enjoying himself.
One day, probably in the dentist, you'll find yourself leafing idly through the small ads in the back of a classic car magazine. And you'll probably think to yourself,
do people still put ads for cars in magazines and newspapers? I know what the town in Washington I grew up in kinda still does that because they have a local newspaper. But is that still a thing that people do?
all that money I spent on a Ford Mondeo could have been used to buy something really interesting, like Mark II Inspector Morse style Jag, for example.
So here's the funny thing about, because we're going to do Top Gear content as well from now on top of the Fast and Furious and Need for Speed stuff, is that It's going to feel weird for me hearing them say all these different model names for cars that aren't sold in the US, even though I'm kind of familiar with a lot of them, and how Peugeot, Renault, Fiat, and all that is much more present in the UK, obviously, it being in such close proximity to Europe and all that. That you don't hear about that as much here. You hear more about Ford, Chevrolet, GM, GMC. I'm blanking on everything for some reason, but you get the idea. Like, it's not domestic there. It's you see more little cars, less big cars. You see more BMWs and Mercedes and things like that, even if it's like kind of the peasant trim versions, to be polite about it.
An old Porsche 911. There are quite a few old Porsche 911s in here. Look, you could even have a Bentley.
Aren't Bentleys known for depreciating like absolute trash? Like, a lot of luxury, like high-end luxury cars don't hold their value at all for some reason. I don't understand why, because the experience, from what I gather, is still kind of the same until you get to a point where the reliability just becomes a problem. Like, if I wanted like a nice Bentley Continental or something else, a Bentayga maybe? That's a model name? Maybe. Maybe it just comes down to reliability. I know that maintenance doesn't change. Servicing schedules and all that crap. Depending on the options on them, of course, they can be complicated and be expensive still, but they seem to drop in value very fast.
Mind you, you'd have to be a complete idiot to buy one of those. This one's mine.
It's like me. Now, when you're shopping for an E46 M3, the popular and slightly more expensive option is going to be to buy a 6-speed manual, because the SMG-equipped cars are more complicated to maintain, the parts that are wear items on it are more expensive to replace and service, and it's just overall a bit of a different driving experience and a little hard to get used to at first, and can require some upgrades and aftermarket parts to make it better than OEM. You would be crazy to get one. Here's mine. I got it for $19,000. You know, like, I am a walking, living example of kind of this sort of sentiment of, yes, I know the SMG is not super desirable, but I bought it anyways. And it's kind of fun, regardless of what people say about it, because I've managed to make it really, really cool. I don't know if he has the same kind of feeling about this car, because he also talks about this car being huge, if I remember correctly, and just being really unorthodox.
It's a T2, pretty much the cheapest Bentley money can buy. You can pick one of these up for 7 or 8 grand, but don't, because for that money it's going to be a complete bag of bolts. This, though, is a good one. It cost 14 grand, but it's got a full service history. All the parts are genuine. There's
So, £14,000 in, was it like 2002? Pounds in 2002 worth today. 30? 14,000 in 2002 is equivalent in purchasing power to about 30? Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, I didn't expect it to be that much of a difference. Because that's something important to think about when you are talking about car prices, you know, from 20 years ago. Because people talk about like how R34 GTRs, when they first were brought in by Motor-X, costed upwards of $80,000, which in today's money is like 120 or something. I know Craig Lieberman's the first Motor-X GTR ever, $78,000 US dollars, 130 grand. Not really that different from what they're going for these days, which to some people go, well, that's fine, you know, it makes sense. They basically cost the same as they did when they were new. But then you go, it's a 25-year-old fucking Nissan. That shit needs to depreciate. That's ridiculous. Like, some of these cars selling for 6 figures are pieces of junk. Smelly old JDM cars. That's gonna make people angry in the comments. Cows.
all the parts are genuine. There's no rust, no filler, and no evidence of bodged repairs.
All the parts are genuine. Jesus, is that important to you? I don't care if the parts are genuine as long as they work. That doesn't make, like, if you've got to change the heads, the carburetor, if this, you know, whatever things that make it work better, I don't care, because I'll probably still get a good experience from it either way. I don't know if I care about having original parts. Yes, these are the original tires from 1972. These are the original brakes from 1946. Sign this waiver. It's your fucking funeral.
Now, 14 grand's top dollar for one of these, but that's still only the price of the most basic Mondeo. Unlike the Mondeo, though, the Bentley shouldn't depreciate. A Mondeo is a disposable item, but it's a Bentley.
So, well, that's the thing. They depreciate like crazy. Some cars, like unique examples, will hold their value or even appreciate in value. The McLaren F1 being one of the best examples. That was like $800,000, $900,000 new. What was the McLaren F1? McLaren F1 MSRP. I'm sorry, I'm botching my spelling. 800 grand to $1 million. Still expensive. Nowhere near as expensive as they are today. Bugatti Veyrons are still depreciating. Okay? McLaren P1s are still kind of depreciating. The Senna appreciated a fair bit for a little while there. Now as we get forced to drive EVs, some stuff are going to naturally appreciate because everything is just becoming illegal because fun is just awful. So, yeah. All right, James May, what do you like about this car?
Well, I like this wood. Someone's taken a lot of care over that. I like the view. I like that strip of chrome down the bonnet and the weird winged bee thing down at the end.
The winged bee thing. Don't Bentley now have what's called the thing at Bentley Ecstasy? What? Bentley Car Ecstasy. Spirit of Ecstasy. Yeah, I'm probably on a list for that Google search now. Spirit of Ecstasy. It went from, this is literally the winged bee thing, and now this is the thing I think they put on most of their cars today. You can have it be in like silver, crystal, or like fucking diamond or something. Like ridiculous materials. Platinum or something. Do they still put this on any of their cars? I know absolutely nothing about Bentleys, so I'm very curious.
And I like the sort of daftness of it. I mean, the light switch is there, fair enough, but the key goes here, and the windscreen wipers are here. I'd expect
Neat. All the different cars I drive, all the controls are in different places. Plus, I drive a freaking semi, or a lorry truck. A big truck, and so the controls are different in that as well. So I'm just used to the controls being in wacky places.
But the key goes here, and the windscreen wipers are here. I'd expect the windscreen wipers to be here, but this is actually the gear stick. And
so I haven't seen that in a long time, the gear stick being a stalk on the wheel. You don't see that very often. I don't think that's done at all anymore, is it? The Freightliner I used to drive had that. I might get another Freightliner, so that could be the case again.
And the handbrake's down here. It's all wrong, and I love that. Somewhere up front is a huge 6.75 litre V8 engine, but when you put your foot down, nothing happens. You get a bit more noise, and it might go a little bit faster, but on the whole, it's a complete waste of time.
I wonder what that does to your fuel consumption. I wonder if it's like, you get nothing except a massive fuel bill. The biggest fuel bill in the world. No, you have to pause. The biggest fuel bill in the world.
You might as well just relax.
James May is really setting the tone for his character here. There's no point in going fast. Let's just drive in serenity, calmness, and peace, which are kind of just other words for serenity.
Handling. I've got furniture that handles better than this thing. Watch. Absolutely nothing.
Oh my god. I would get a ticket if my semi had that much play in the steering. That is actually terrifying.
It's rubbish to drive. I'm going slower than you, and yes, I look like a failed porn star. But I am in my own Bentley.
What's the insurance like?
A Bentley for Mondeo money. Some of you are pretty tempted by this idea, but hang on. I haven't told you how it ruined my life yet.
It's like a failed marriage or something.
I said this car doesn't depreciate, but big deal. Who really cares about depreciation anyway? It's just something that goes on all the time when you're in the pub or in bed. It's not something that hurts you every day. For that, you need a Bentley. Every time I go near this thing, it kicks me in the head and runs off with my wallet. It costs 80 quid to fill up.
What the? Someone's fueling your car for you? Is that a thing? I don't remember that being a thing when I was in the UK. Ever.
It costs 80 quid to fill up and does 15 miles to the gallon. If I drive like an undertaker, I have to rent a king-size garage to keep it in, and it takes up 2 tokens at the...
You have to rent a garage? A garage? I'm gonna start. You doing the chameleon thing of copying their accents. Oh, because they live in London, and it's weird and screwy and a waste of money.
And it takes up 2 tokens at the jet wash.
I don't know what that means.
Servicing only costs about the same as it does for a mid-sized BMW, but it has to go in 3 times as often. Which is why my mechanic buys his overalls from Gucci, while I sit at home, eating gruel.
It seems to me you could have done that film a lot shorter than that.
Yes, it's, for the money you spend on a basic Mondeo, you could buy an old Bentley like I did. Don't.
Exactly, don't. Stupid idea, isn't it?
It is. It's fine as a hobby, but this is my only car.
You don't even have another...
It's his only car. Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah. Now I can feel his pain a little bit. Wow.
But this is my only car.
You don't even have another car?
I don't have another car.
Well, how many sacrifices do you have to make?
Going for a curry, having mates, having a proper car.
In any form of life. And presumably it won't fit in your garage since you live in London.
No.
How long is it, anyways? It does look freaking huge. Which is interesting, because a lot of old cars are typically smaller than, like, modern counterparts. Like, old Skylines are tiny, old Honda Civics are tiny. Cars are a lot bigger now, typically.
Well, actually, that's not quite true. The first 12 feet fit in the garage magnificently, even though I can't actually get out of the car. But then there are 2 feet on the pavement.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And then the last 3 feet are on the road and get a parking ticket. And if I put the whole car on the road, you have to pay the council tax, obviously.
Because it's...
The council tax? The what? My goodness, I always forget that the government is also very strange in the UK as well, or at least it was back then. It probably still is now. I mean, there's not a single government in the world that isn't... Who is sitting in his car right now? There is someone in there.
The thing is it's not my sort of car. But then we do differ, don't
That's
we,
why I
really?
like it.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
exactly.
What wouldn't Jeremy buy out of all these cars? That one.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have that.
respect that in a man. I really do. You said in the film you have to rent a garage.
Yeah.
Well, how far away?
I don't know, 7 miles or so.
Jesus. What?
You rent a garage 7 miles from your house. How do you get there, then?
On my folding bicycle, obviously.
You are mad. You're just clinically insane running a car like this.
I think you may be missing an essential point, though, Jeremy.
Comfy, though, but this sort of thing. Well, like that.
Is he actually being serious? 7 miles? What does that mean, to rent a garage? Like, so you can have a house in London, but you don't want to have to park it on the street. You want it to be safe in a garage. So you have to rent a... That's interesting. Maybe that's a thing that exists in the US as well, but what the heck?
I think you may be missing an essential point, though, Jeremy.
Comfy, though, but this sort of thing. Well, like this.
This is the one with the firm suspension, actually.
No, is it really?
Yeah,
the
it
T
is.
is for firm suspension.
It's got something rather preposterously called the Harvey Bailey Handling Kit.
Harvey Bailey didn't know anything about suspension either, by the looks of things.
I don't even know who Harvey Bailey is.
Well, let's say, of all the cars in this studio, this one is actually the cheapest.
No, it's
isn't it?
the Smart's cheaper. That's 30. It's £500 cheaper. You can have a Smart.
Okay, well,
Which doesn't do this.
this would have been cheaper. This would have been cheaper.
That should be a GIF.
This would have been cheaper if I'd not felt sorry for the bloke who was selling it and haggled a bit more. Then
That's
I'd
a
have probably
British
got it
disease.
It is a British disease.
Well, I
a very
feel really
British
sorry
car.
for him, yeah.
Am I right in saying this car is so cool that most people, by which I mean Jeremy, don't realise it yet?
Yeah.
What? I don't understand that statement.
Okay, hands up if you think it's a cool car. Yes. That's 1, 2, 3. And on that bombshell, let's do the news, shall we?
Yeah.